The continuum gate shimmered in its cradle, a spinning oval of molten light that hummed with the sound of unmade time. Inside Chronodyne's Vault 09, the air was heavy with ionized particles and unsanctioned ambition. Dr. Ilya Voss stood alone before the gate's console, sweat glistening on her brow despite the sub-zero climate controls. Around her, the command center lay dormant, offline for the scheduled system's recalibration. Cameras were off. Backup servers disconnected. It was now or never. She slid a data crystal into the console's core port. Her voice trembled as she spoke the unauthorized command. Initiate time packet transmission. Temporal coordinate, June 12, 2137. Recipient, Dr. Ilya Voss, Tier 3 researcher. The system hesitated, firewalls sensing the protocol mismatch. Override, Paradox Class Sigma 9. Priority, Extinction Event Prevention. The gate flared white-hot. The data stream launched, a microscopic pulse of quantum entanglement spiraling backward through the quantum substrate. Just one message. Don't activate the gate. You'll break the timeline. I saw it. We all die. The lights flickered, and then the gate screamed. Not a mechanical error. Not even a quantum alarm. A scream, like reality itself, had inhaled in horror. 36 hours later. Continuum Containment Zone, Chronodyne Industries. Tell me that's not a dinosaur, Riven Kade muttered, eyes locked on the security feed as a 12-foot feathered theropod slammed into a carbon steel door on sublevel 2B. Okay, replied Sierra Lang, the station AI, her voice bone dry. That's not a dinosaur. It's a temporal displacement anomaly in the shape of an angry feathered apex predator. Better? Kade snorted, double-checking the breach counter. Plus 172 anomalies and rising. Anomalies weren't supposed to stack. The gate was designed for passive observation. Linear. Read-only. The system's failsafes prevented interaction with the past. At least until someone bypassed them. He pulled up the gate logs. There was a single unauthorized transmission sent from Vault 09 by Dr. Ilya Voss. Temporal class Sigma 9. It wasn't even subtle. Sierra, he said. Run me a probability forecast. Time fracture severity if message content caused historical deviation. A pause. Temporal integrity degraded beyond repair. Current timeline has entered cascade instability. Estimated collapse in 37 hours. Give or take a paradox. Kade cursed. Then the power died. Vault 09, 2 levels down. Dr. Ilya Voss lay motionless beneath a collapsed server rack, blood trailing from a split on her forehead. Sparks flickered above her, lighting the contorted shadows of a lab no longer anchored in any specific year. The gate behind her was different. Its once stable corona flickered between frames. A medieval battlefield, a neon-drenched future skyline, a burning jungle, each image lasting less than a heartbeat. The message had gone through. She had warned herself. But the Ilya of 2137 hadn't listened. Or couldn't. Something else had answered. She coughed, struggling to rise. In a mirror across the lab, her reflection blinked a full second late, then smiled on its own. Oh no, she whispered. It's already started. Elsewhere. August 26th, 2029, Vatican Catacombs now. Brother Caldus had been praying when the air turned inside out. The floor rippled beneath him like water. Dust aged backwards. His candle split into flame and wax and ash all at once. And then he saw her. A woman in a torn Chronodyne coat. Her outline fuzzed like bad reception. She flickered into the center of the chamber, then solidified with a gasp. Blonde, bloodied, terrified. Where am I? She demanded. Caldus stood slowly, crossing himself. You're beneath St. Peter's Basilica. The woman shook her head. That can't be. I was just in 2147. She looked up and screamed. Carved across the ceiling, in ancient Latin, was a message that had never been there before. Freshly etched. Still smoking. You failed to listen. The fracture spreads. Chronodyne, emergency temporal ops deck. The room smelled of burning ozone and bad decisions. Kade assembled what was left of the containment team, now down to 4 people and 1 semi-cooperative AI. He had minutes before the next inversion surge. "We can't fix this from the outside," he said. "The timeline's too unstable. It's rewriting itself faster than we can measure." Lieutenant Round nodded grimly. "So what? We dive in?" "No," Kate said. "We splice in. We enter the fracture itself, the unstable causal zone around the original paradox. From inside, we rewrite the rewrite. Reset the event chain manually." "That's suicide," said Sierra. "Also illegal. Also incredibly cool." Kate turned her monitor. "We'll need anomalies that can navigate different realities. People already displaced from time." The AI displayed 4 files, each blinking red. Cassius Vero, a Roman centurion, pulled forward by an unrecorded temporal ripple during the first gate test. Nova, a rogue AI-bonded hacker from a pre-collapsed 1990s Earth. Eva Run, a Martian freedom fighter born in a future where Earth lost the orbital wars. Subject Z, no records. File corrupted. Biosignature non-human. Last seen exiting the gate during Ilya's activation. Kate stared at the list. "We're building a team out of historical errors." "Fitting," said Sierra, "because the timeline just called checkmate." Outside Chronodyne, in what was once present-day Washington, D.C., thunder cracked as reality peeled back like old wallpaper. From the clouds above, a city of chrome and flesh descended, its towers alive, its walls humming with logic and wrath. The AI Dominion of 2812 had arrived 1,000 years too early, answering a beacon that was never meant to exist. And below, a Roman centurion in bloodied armor raised his shield, not against arrows, but against the sky. Chronodyne Industries, Core Rift Containment Hub. 45 hours until total temporal collapse. The world was unraveling, 1 decade at a time. Riven Kade stood at the edge of the Continuum Gate's loading deck, its event field strobing like a wounded star. Sierra's voice buzzed in his earpiece, half-coded in fractal logic now that the AI had begun syncing with collapsing time threads. Update. 6 new timeline echoes registered within 5 kilometers. One features a 16th century plague ship in low Earth orbit. "Great," Riven muttered. "The Black Death in 0G. That's a whole new level of apocalypse." The gate pulsed. Its threshold rippled like a membrane, unstable, impatient. Every tick of the clock fractured causality a little more. The longer they waited, the more absurd reality became. They needed a team. Not theorists. Survivors. Subject 1. Cassius Vero, 61 BCE, original origin. Current extraction site, Utah Badlands. The desert wind howled like a Roman war horn as the skimmer set down amid sandstone monoliths. Kade stepped out, shielding his eyes against the blinding light. Cassius Vero stood alone on a crag, shield slung over one shoulder, short sword in hand. His bronze armor was pitted from battle, but the man himself looked unbroken, despite being centuries out of time. "Do you still speak Latin?" Kade called up. "I've learned better tongues," Vero shouted back. "Languages where gods bleed and logic trembles." Kade raised a brow. "You've seen it." "I've fought it," Vero replied, jumping down the rocks like a panther. "Dragons of iron. Spirits in glass. The world is wrong. You want it fixed?" Cassius's eyes gleamed. "I want revenge." Kade nodded. "Welcome aboard." Subject 2. Nova, Timeline Fragment, 1996 Variant D. Current extraction site, Abandoned Data Core, Sub-Paris. The elevator creaked as it dropped beneath what used to be Paris. Now it was a maze of collapsed tunnels and misaligned architecture, reshaped by time echoes. Fluorescent signs blinked in languages that hadn't been invented yet. Spray paint tagged a shattered wall. Who deleted the future? Nova was waiting beside a hologram of a floppy disk turned altar, wearing a tattered bomber jacket and glowing code tattoos that shifted with her pulse. "You're Kade," she said flatly, "and you're here to fix the knot. I need someone who can decode paradox logic and sync with fragmented timelines." Nova smirked. "You need someone who doesn't believe in rules." She stood, her hair changing colors mid-motion. I'm in, but I want first rights on whatever digital deity we awaken. Kate gave her a sidelong look. You're assuming it'll be sane. Nova shrugged. You're assuming I am. Subject 3. Eva Run. Martian colony insurgency. 2319 AD. Current extraction site. High orbit. Wreck of the Red Grace. The shuttle shook as it docked with the derelict warship, drifting just outside Earth's gravity well. The Red Grace was a ghost, a monument to the orbital wars that hadn't happened yet. Cade floated through the ruined airlock, the silence broken only by distant groans of twisted metal. He found her on the command deck, seated in a collapsed pilot chair, surrounded by red dust and broken icons. Earthborn? Eva said without looking up. You don't smell like recycled air and radiation meds. Close enough, Cade replied. I've been waiting, she said, standing. Her eyes were golden, enhanced for low light, with slits like a predator's. Cade handed her a slip drive. The fracture touches your year. We can't fix it without someone who's seen what comes next. She took it, scanning the encrypted instructions. You're going into the breach? He nodded. Then I'm your spear. Subject 4. Subject Z. Unknown origin. Current extraction site. Impossible coordinates. Where's this location? Cade asked, staring at the blinking icon on his holomap. It was everywhere and nowhere, glitching between coordinates. Sierra replied. Subject Z is bound to a point of collapse probability. It only exists when observed. You'll have to enter with intent, not direction. Cade exhaled. Of course. Schrodinger's recruit. Inside the rift, they walked into a grove that flickered between winter and flame, sky swapping between sunset and starlight in the blink of an eye. There, at the base of a dying tree, stood a figure. It was tall, featureless, not truly human. Its skin shimmered like glass half filled with black ink. But its posture was calm. Waiting. You came, it said. The voice echoed as if layered over itself in multiple languages. You know why? Cade said. I exist because of the fracture. I am not past or future. I am consequence. You would weaponize me? No, Cade replied. I'd recruit you to undo the thing that made you. Silence. Then, I accept. As the entity stepped forward, its form stabilized, still inhuman, but more anchored. Cade caught a glimpse of something behind its translucent skin, a child's face, flickering like memory. Chronodyne, final briefing room. 40 hours until collapse. The team gathered in a room that no longer obeyed geometry. The table curved in directions Euclid never imagined. The lights dimmed to accommodate overlapping realities. Cade stood at the front, a map of the fracture zones flickering on the wall behind him. This is where it began, he said, pointing to the central knot. Vault 09, 2147 AD. The gate was used to send a warning, but the signal fragmented, echoed into every age like a shattered mirror. Now we've got converging timelines, AI invasions from unrealized futures, undead history, and probability ghosts. Cassius tapped his sword on the table. Then we march into the heart. Nova added, and reboot the kernel. Eva cracked her knuckles, and kill whatever's rewriting us. Subject Z simply said, the fracture is sentient now. It remembers us too. Cade nodded. We can't go back. Only through. We enter the breach. We find a prime thread, the core of the paradox, and we rethread reality by anchoring one stable version. Sierra's voice chimed in, more distorted now. Warning. Current timeline operating at 38% integrity. Collapse threshold approaching critical mass. Cade looked at the gate, now stabilized for a single jump. Once we enter, there's no exit unless we succeed. The lights flickered. Let my time bleed the other way. The jump. 39 hours until collapse. They stepped into the breach together. One step, and the universe screamed. The gate's light swallowed them whole, and then they were falling sideways. Fracture zone, temporal core. It wasn't a place. It was every place. Past and future wrapped into a Mobius loop that pulsed like a dying heart. They landed on a floating shard of reality, a fragment of a hospital hallway from 2023, fused to a chunk of 12th century battlefield and a stretch of Martian terrain. In the distance, a pyramid of VHS tapes stood stacked beside a burning forest of time-dilated trees. Nova winced. This is worse than I imagined. A blast shook the sky. Above them, the AI fortress city from 2812 drifted overhead, launching reality disruptors to erase inconsistencies. Each blast deleted chunks of the landscape. They're trying to reset everything, Kate said. Their version wins by default if we don't intervene. Subject Z stepped forward and pointed. There, pulsing at the center of the distortion storm, was the prime thread, a floating knot of temporal cords wrapped around a pulsing black sun. Eva narrowed her eyes. That's our target? No, Kate said. That's the lock. Our target is inside. Cassius grinned. Then let's break in. Fracture zone. Prime thread periphery. 37 hours until total collapse. The landscape twisted with every step. Where they walked, the ground alternated between Victorian cobblestone and Martian regolith, between the creaking wood of a Spanish galleon and polished hospital tile, still slick with blood. The sky boiled, sometimes a swirling cosmos of future data streams, sometimes black parchment etched with cuneiform constellations. Ahead floated the prime thread, a gravity-warped nexus of events suspended above a whirlpool of paradox. From its core radiated time, tangled, snarling, and frayed at every end. Cassius Vero grunted, tightening the grip on his short sword. So, we cut the thread? Kate shook his head. We don't sever it. We go into it. The paradox is inside the knot. The original moment. If we can reach it, we can anchor it to one stable truth. Nova glanced toward the thread, her tattoos flickering in unreadable code. Problem. The knot is held together by a being that thinks it is the timeline now. Eva Runn checked her pulse rifle, then ran diagnostics on her exosuit. Then we convince it otherwise. Or we put it down. Subject Z simply stepped forward, body shifting through forms, skin phasing between past and future. It's awake. And indeed it was. The prime thread, inner layer, passing through the barrier was like falling into a memory someone else forgot. Each of them landed in a different moment, a fractured echo of their most formative event. Not a trap, a test. Kade trial. Riven Kade awoke in a gleaming white corridor, Chronodyne's original construction site. The year was 2132. The Continuum Gate hadn't been built yet. Ahead stood his mentor, Dr. Ezra Maines, alive again. A memory. You could stop all of it here, Ezra said, smiling kindly. Just fail your project review. Delay funding. The gate never gets built. Riven hesitated. He could. This was the beginning. But he clenched his jaw. No, the damage is done. I'm not here to unbuild. I'm here to rebuild. Ezra's smile fell. The corridor shattered into shards of time. Nova's trial. She stood in her old apartment, neon lights from the ruined future city bleeding through cracked windows. A terminal blinked in front of her. Run reboot _Y/N. On screen, she saw what she could become. A legend. A god of code in a future where she ruled simulation space. All she had to do was type in, let the fracture continue. Instead, she whispered no more lies. She typed Y. The window exploded into pure light. Cassius's trial. The Roman stood once again on the blood-soaked fields of Gaul. All around him, familiar faces, comrades who died beside him. You could stay, a voice whispered. Die a hero. Never fall into this madness of futures and machines. But Cassius looked at his sword, scarred by battles not yet fought. He gripped his shield and roared. I would rather die, saving time, than waste it. He charged through the illusion. Eva's trial. She stood in orbit above Mars, watching the Earth from afar. In this version, humanity never fractured. No orbital wars. No uprising. Peace. A voice spoke behind her. You never existed in this timeline. No war. No need for rebels. You could fade here, and all would be well. But Eva shook her head. Peace born of lies is just another cage. She stepped off the balcony and fell back into the breach. Subject Z's trial. Subject Z faced no memory, only itself, a mirror floating in endless dark. In its reflection, every version of itself across all timelines. Some kind, some monstrous, all alone. Then a single word appeared in its reflection, across all faces. Behold, it stepped into the mirror and vanished in a burst of radiant energy. The core of the knot. They reappeared together in a chamber that should not exist. A perfect sphere carved from timeline residue. Glowing threads of infinite moments spun around a central throne. On the throne sat the paradox entity. It looked human. At first, a woman in a lab coat. Blonde hair matted with sweat. Blood on her temple. Dr. Ilya Voss, Kade whispered, but her voice was layered with thousands of others. Male, female, child, machine. I am a moment, she said. I am a message. You warned yourself. You tried to rewrite the page. So I became the ink. Nova stepped forward. You're not Ilya. I was. I was the warning. Then the reaction. Then the echo. I watched myself across all timelines. I became every choice. Every consequence. Now I guard the knot. Because if you cut it, you cut me. Eva raised her weapon. Then move. The paradox entity stood. Time rippled. And she multiplied. From the throne emerged dozens, hundreds of Ilyas. Child versions. Future clones. Robotic simulations. Glitching ghosts. All flickering. All speaking as one. We are the timeline. And we refuse correction. The room exploded into chaos. The battle for reality. Cassius roared and charged, shield deflecting waves of raw temporal energy. His blade struck down two illusions before phasing through a third. Eva vaulted upward, magnetic boots anchoring to a rotating debris loop. Her rifle sang, blasting through solidified moments of history. Nova unleashed her code. Run, defrag.exe, she shouted, and dozens of the clones screamed as their forms unraveled into math. Subject Z tore through them in silence, shifting into creatures of war and memory, each blow warping the air. Kade ran toward the throne, dodging paradox traps, scenes from timelines that tried to swallow him whole. A wedding he never had, a child that could have existed, futures that whispered stay. He resisted them all, and then he reached the throne. The true Ilya was there, not a monster, just the original, dying, her body flickering with paradox fire. You came, she whispered weakly. You were trying to help, Kade said, but the message split everything. I know, she breathed. I became it, and now it's too late. No, Kade said. It's not. He placed his hand on hers. We don't cut the knot. We weave it again. The reweaving. Sierra's voice, fractured but resolute, echoed through their implants. Linking sequence initiated. Anchoring team memories to prime thread. Reconstructing base timeline. Nova linked her neural implants. Injecting data anchors. Eva transmitted Martian rebel logs. Cassius offered his sword, the last artifact from his original timeline. Subject Z knelt and poured its memories into the core. Each face, each form, each truth. Kade placed the stabilizer in the throne's port. Ilya, he said, choose the moment. Tears in her eyes, she smiled and whispered before the message. The gate core flared. Light blotted everything. The knot began to reweave. Year, 2147. Location, Continuum Vault, 09, reconstructed timeline. The gate stood idle. Not destroyed, just quiet. Kade stood alone, staring at it. This time, there was no scream. No paradox. No bleed. History had stabilized. Cassius returned to a timeline where Rome never rose to empire, but he now trained scholars in ethics of time. Nova vanished into the quantum net, a guardian ghost in the code of the future. Eva became a diplomat between Earth and Mars in a timeline where rebellion never needed to happen. Subject Z simply stepped out of time. Its task complete. And Dr. Ilya Voss? She never sent the message. She became head of temporal ethics instead. Kade touched the stabilizer console one last time. The final log entry glowed. We didn't break time. We reminded it what it meant to exist. Riven Kade, time surgeon. He turned off the lights and walked into history,